Welcome to Storywise, and today I'm going to be reviewing the most recent book I finished, and that is The 100,000 Kingdoms by N.K. Jemisin. Sorry, N.K. Jemisin. First off, a lot of respect to the religion building that she did for this book, to include the appendixes at the back that really go deep. It shows how much she thought of this universe or this world that she created, and I have tremendous respect for that. It's not always my thing. I didn't read that, but I appreciate the depth that people can go to create these things. It just means more. And so there's a connection in that I feel. This book, the first 28 pages, I didn't get into, and I wasn't sure I was going to finish, but I'm glad I did, because it started that way, but it ended up becoming, I think, in my top 5 recent books that I've read. So I did not expect that coming. It just shows you that sticking out through the first 100 pages of a book is a really great thing to do. It's worth your investment to do that, because sometimes you're just not getting your footing. And one of the reasons I wasn't getting my footing is this has been constructed in a different kind of way. There's a lot of jumping in and out of the storyline, in a sense where it's like introspection or something poetic, and then it goes back to the story. And I had a hard time understanding what that was. I think by the end of the book, if I'm not mistaken, it sort of explains what was going on with all of that. And again, I'm not going to give a spoiler of what that means, but I was definitely struggling at first. But that's the whole point of something new and exposing yourself to things and pushing through. Not that it was this arduous journey and I'm like, oh, this is terrible. It just, I wasn't connecting with, wasn't getting my groove in the read, because it kept jumping back and forth, and I get into something and then it pulls me out here, and then it jumps back here. I'm like, ugh, it was just jarring. I really appreciate the glossary of terms. I referred to that so much because one of my biggest problems with reading books, and I'm going to say in fantasy because I haven't really had this problem in many other books outside of fantasy, is the amount of names that I have to be familiar with. Or maybe that's not fair to say about just fantasy, but I feel like in a lot of the books I've read, there's just so many names that I don't have to remember, but also do have to remember. And having this glossary of terms and names that I could jump to, I would do it quite often, especially in the first 100 pages. Just kept going back and like, who is this person? Oh, they're this person. Who's this person? Oh, that's this person. Because I'd forget, like, what was the relationship with this person and the main character? And I couldn't remember it. Is this a cousin? Is this a god? Is this a relative of any kind, or some servant, or what? And having that glossary allowed me to go back and always get that confirmation and then jump back into the story with better context. And it also helped me learn through repetition who the characters were, without having to go back and try to find it in the book and be like, who was this? And then spend 10 minutes trying to find the one line that they were in. Nope, just go back to the back. That's her cousin. Okay, back to it. Let's go. And I said, like, her world building and setting was great. I think the religion was even more compelling. Was it groundbreaking? No, but it was unique enough that you could tell how much she thought about it. And I really enjoyed trying to do this without spoilers, the way she created the world. And once we got into that detail of who these gods were, I might be wrong, but I don't remember reading anything about how they enslaved the gods and made them into their weapons. I just know that was a setting, and I found myself rooting for the gods and the main character to bond in all of this, even though it was set up to be like the Aramari, I can't remember the name, the people who enslaved the gods. I did not like them at all. And that was by design, especially I don't know, she would be the princess, I guess. She was horrible. And I don't know why, but I don't know if you guys have seen the show Sophia and Me, or no, it was on the Disney Channel. It was Sophia the First. For some reason, I think her sister-in-law's name was, not sister-in-law, stepsister was Amber. And for some reason, that princess in the book, the Aramari princess, reminded me of Amber. That's all I could see, was a more grown-up version of the worst person Amber could have become. Again, that might be just me, but that's the person who popped up into my head. And that's what my vision was an older Amber from Sophia the First, who grew up to be just a horrible person. One of my favorite things about the book was the amount of emotion the main character expressed. Now, her name is, I said it in my head as Ian. I don't know if that's correct. So that's why I'm saying main character. I don't want to botch that name and keep doing it and be like disrespectful. But she was able to express emotion. She was a barbarian, but she could express emotion. And when she did, it might shock the people around her, but she moved through it. A lot of times we think of emotion as this thing that we get mired down in, and you're just going to stay there. And it's like, yeah, so why would I want to do that? Why would I want to see that? This is my expectation. She is going to just be miserable now. Well, she didn't. She had the emotion and then she moved on. Whether it was joy, anger, sadness, she experienced it and moved on. And I think it's a really healthy lesson. She's a healthy example of how emotions are meant to be felt. And I hope that's the point, but that's what I took it as, is a really good archetype of how we should express and process emotion. And I think that one of my other favorite things about the book is the little boy god. He obviously was millennia old, but he chose the form of a child to stay and embody that adolescent spirit. And the way he's floating around on a ball and the way she wrote that character, I adored him. I thought he was so great. And the Dark Lord, Nama, I think was the name, really enjoyed the way she wrote him. This is my first book with romance of any kind. And it was so well written that the heat from it was not smut at all. It was deeply impactful. Like, I felt it. And I could understand why people like the genre of romance, though I've not read romance. And I'm not saying this is a romance novel or would fit into that category. This is the level of romance that I like in a book. I don't want more than that. But it was deeply passionate and conflicting and really exciting. And I loved it. And there's so much happening that I can't give away, but it makes sense why certain things happen in the way that she weaves in the stories. It grows and grows and grows as you understand more about the religion and the history of it and the history of the people and the conflicts and the nature of the power in this sky village or sky city. And that's why I'm glad that I read past page 28. I didn't get grabbed at all until page 28, and then it just built. And it was like, this isn't going to make my top shelf, which behind me, this shelf right here, those books are my top books. And I can only fit so many on that shelf. And so once they are not on it anymore, it means that they've fallen out of my top, however many books that is. And this wasn't even going to make it on it. But after page 28, it just kept taking up spots on my list. And it ended up being, like I said, top 5. And that was unexpected. So this book is part of a series. I'm definitely going to continue this series. And I'm excited to see where it goes based on the ending. So I highly recommend this one if you like religions, if you like I'm going to call it coming of age story type, but it doesn't feel that way. It just feels like some person who is deeply conflicted because they're split between two worlds and they're trying to understand it while being thrust into an incredible situation where their life is at stake. So the stakes are always high. There's political implications, but it's done in a way that doesn't overwhelm. It's well done. I don't like political stuff. I get lost in it. I didn't get so much of that I got lost completely. Yes, I did wane in and out of attention when it came to some of those more dry political discussions, which are very small. That is a very small part of it. I just really loved the conversation between the dynamic between the gods and the main character. That was probably my favorite part. And wanting resolution there so that we could deal with this other political human type nonsense. But it makes you feel emotions. I promise you that. Whether it's like anger, sadness, or passion, this will make you feel some things. So highly would recommend this book to anyone who hasn't read it. And I'm looking forward to the rest of the series. So until next time, journey well, my friends.